What's going on, guys? My name is Mike Widmer. Welcome back to another episode of A Study of Success. Today, we're going to be getting into a book review of Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David, Master the Art of Business Strategy. We're going to be getting into 3 things I learned and applied and was able to use in my business and in my life from this book. Let's get it. So the first thing I learned to apply in my life from this book is be shameless about self-promotion. This is one of the biggest things I've had to struggle with. Let's say you're at a family party and someone asks you, how's life, how's business, how's your wife, how was the trip you went on? What is your instant reaction to that question? Is it anxiety, like, oh, I gotta talk about myself now? Or is it excitement? I know for me, and most of my life, it was anxiety and fear. I'm like, oh my God, I have to talk about myself right now, or oh, I gotta talk about my business or how it's doing. Be shameless. Do not fear talking about yourself. Self-promote constantly. If somebody wants to hear about you, self-promote. Don't worry about what other people think. If you're proud of something, for example, I wrote a book, A Study of Success. I didn't self-promote any of it. I sold like 100 copies. I have to get out there more and be more willing to just execute and show my knowledge that I've learned from reading. And I have 3 businesses. I don't talk about that to anybody. I need to get out there and show, and you do too, show off a little bit. It's not cocky to do so. It's just the right thing to do in business. You should not be holding in. Do you think Jesus, of course, he's God, but he went out and he preached. God didn't come to earth and not tell everybody he was here. If you're here and you're doing something, go out and show that what you're doing to the world. Do not be ashamed to self-promote. All right, number 2, trackability. Trackability. And I'll write another word, transparency. All right. So whether you own a business or not, let's get into trackability if you do not own a business. What I do personally, if I want to get better at, let's say, working out, I have an app which tells me how many times did I scan in for the gym. And then I also keep track of going to Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not good. That's not a flex at all. I get my ass kicked every single time I go. But tracking how many times you actually make it to class, or how many times you make it to the gym, or what you're eating in your life, if you want to improve. I had the impression that I was going to the gym way more. I looked at this app. I didn't realize it tracked how many check-ins I had. And it said I only went to the gym, let's say 50 or 60 times this year. I only went to Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai another 50 or 60 times this year. That explains a lot. I'm not losing enough weight. I'm not as cut as I want to be. And then also tracking your diet. You can look back and say, oh, I've been eating really healthy. You start to track it. I went out to eat 10 times this week for lunch. 5 times, not 10 times in 1 week. But you're loading yourself with sodium. You're loading yourself with processed foods. Like, you're showing yourself. Numbers don't lie. If you eat bad, if you go to the gym too little, you can look at that number and say, oh, if I just double that number, I can improve. That is why you should always be tracking. In business, in my business, we have 3 companies. We have 2 rental companies and 1 trucking company. If I want to look at one of my companies, let's say it's ARC Container Rentals, a container rental company. If I want to look at that company and say, how is my company doing? I look at number one, you look at revenue. How are my sales doing? Two, then you can break it down by how is each salesperson selling? How are their numbers up to date? And we have numbers for that. How can you make your company more trackable? For me, let's say you're tracking yourself. I could personally track how many hours am I coming to the office every single day? Am I getting here earlier than everybody else? Am I staying later than everybody else? And then you can get into, so you could track how many hours you're working a day. And then you could track, let's say on an individual level rather than a business level. I started tracking how many hours am I doing accounting, how many hours am I doing sales, and the importance of tracking that is, am I doing all my sales during the less sellable hours, and then I'm doing all my accounting during the time that I should be selling? For example, going on sales rounds. We just reenacted going on sales rounds, basically touching, going into different hotels that may be renovating, or going to construction sites, or going to networking events. Am I doing enough of that, or am I using my time too much in the accounting portion of the day when I could be doing accounting after the work day and doing sales when everyone else is working, getting our business out there? Another way to track in my business would be, let's say, our rental rate across our entire fleet. And a good lesson from that would be, let's say we rent a container for $100 to $200 a month. If we raise the rental rate $5 extra a month and we have 1,000 containers, we just made an extra $5,000 a month. Okay? You could do the same thing with cost cutting. How do I start negotiating? What should I start negotiating the price on? Let's say insurance. Track your insurance costs. Track your accounting costs. Track your payroll. How do I get these costs down? How do I improve sales? Business is all about profitability. If I could save $1, I made $1. So everything you do, track. All right, and number 3 that I learned from Your Next 5 Moves, battling Goliath. All right. So if you're in business, we all have a Goliath, right? In my business, it is Will Scott. Will Scott is the biggest container rental company in the world. They've been acquiring everybody. They have like over 500,000 containers. When you're going up against Goliath, you're going up against a company with capital, resources, legal teams. They could undercut you because they don't care about losing money sometimes, because they have unlimited money. They could just flat out bully your company into non-existence, or they could just keep offering to buy you, and then if you say no, they may undercut you in that region until you're forced to say yes. How do you go up against Goliath? 1, an example for me, customer service is key, because these big guys do not care about you, the customer. Customer service. And we'll write another one for this part. Personal touch. And one more. Relationships. All right. In business, Goliath does not care about a relationship with you. You're just a number. Okay? You, being an entrepreneur, have to get out there and make building the relationships with the customer your number 1 priority. How do you do that? Birthdays, Christmas gifts, and send out Christmas gifts during that time of year. Thanksgiving. What I do every single year is I send out a text to every single one of our big clients. They have, let's say, 100 managers that I have contacts of. I'll send out a Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy New Year. If I know their birthday, happy birthday. Always be in front of them, okay? Let's say in Patrick Bet-David's case, he's in the insurance business. He has a company called Aegon who sued him. You can read about that in the book. What is something they lack is communication. They have, let's say, 100 departments while we have 7 employees. I mean, the difference, I can just go talk to my 2 partners or my 4 other employees. The lack of communication, you can execute on that and basically turn your company into an all-star by attacking those 2 things: customer service, communication. And let's say, what do those companies have that you don't have? They have way more structure. You can get out there and be more creative, bring ideas to the marketplace that they can't. They lack creativity. They are very cookie cutter, volume, get as much out, don't even care about the customer, don't have relationships with the customer. What can you do? Have an idea, whether you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, which you can read about in his book, Your Next 5 Moves. You can enact those ideas that can change your business. I'm not going to give any of my ideas for my business because I got competition watching me. But let's just say a small idea of, let's say WillScott's not doing ramps for their containers to bring pallets in and out for storage because their legal team says, oh, it's too much of a risk that maybe someone will trip. We're going to do ramps big time. We're going to push ramps, say, listen, you can't get into a WillScott container with ours. Our containers, they come with ramps. You pull right in, you get in and out quick, and you just figure out what they can't do and execute on that, okay? All right, so ideas. They lack flexibility, okay? Goliath lacks flexibility. Flexibility. Okay, so lastly, we're going to be getting into the ranking of this book, and I have 5 different categories that I rank books on. All right, so we're going to be getting into the ranking of this book and how we believe it fit into these 5 categories. How did it rank in each one of those 5 categories? So first, practicality, the ability to give ideas and display how we should be applying them in our business. I gave Patrick a 9 on that portion. Readability, ability to keep the reader engaged. I finished this book quick, and I've been reading it ever since for this video, but also just taking notes, going back and writing a lot of different ideas that I could apply to my business. Authenticity, I gave him a 10. If you haven't watched Patrick's podcast, Valuetainment, yet, you'll know just from listening to him for 5 minutes, he is the most authentic guy. He tells a great story about himself. He came from Iran when he was 12. He went to a refugee camp in Germany, and then he came to America. And the rest is history. The guy is an all-star, and he's killing it now. And he's also just a great mentor and model for a lot of people. Tune into his podcast. Storytelling ability. The guy's got a story about everything. He makes comparisons to a lot of sports analogies. The guy is unbelievable at storytelling. I gave him an 8.5 on that. His X Factor out of the box ranking, I gave him a 9. And the reason I gave him a 9 is because he has a lot of ideas that make you go back and think, that's really what that's about, is how often am I reading this book and think, oh wow, that's a really good idea. I haven't thought of it that way. I give him a 9 on that. And overall, we give Your Next 5 Moves an overall score of 9.1. Go out and buy this book, guys. This book will help you with your business. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of A Study of Success. Hope to see you guys soon and give more advice on business and more book reviews. God bless. Mike out.